He's been picked out. Sops down to his ankle. Picks out Stansfield. That's the hat-trick. And that's what dreams are made of.
Hello everybody and welcome to Park Life, the official Exeter City podcast. Oh, how things have improved since our last show. 2 massive wins against Bristol Rovers and Barnsley, plus we've finally got our hands on a striker. There's plenty to get through before our second clash with Rovers this weekend, so without further ado, let's get started. Coming up in today's show, I'm joined by Park Life regular Sam Parks to dissect our recent victories, as well as get his opinion on City's new signings. City defender Cheick Diabate also joins me to chat about how he forced his way into the starting 11 and how the team have turned things around in recent weeks. We also get the lowdown on Saturday's opposition from the Gascast's Max Alderson before the club's sustainability officer Travis Bramley talks us through what you can do to support Green Football Weekend. First up then, I'm joined by Expression FM's Sam Parks to get his opinion on a big week in City's season. Sam, welcome to Park Life. Things have changed a bit since we last had you on the show. Before that game against Cambridge at the Abbey Stadium, City had gone 12 league games without a win. Now, we've won 3 of our last 5 in League One. What a turnaround.
Yeah, a really good turnaround. You know, you've got to give credit to Gary for the club for sticking with him as well. And, you know, above else, the players as well, you know, they've really put a shift in and we're starting to see some goals and really strong defensive performances.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a hell of an upturn in form. Such a good display from the lads on the weekend against Barnsley and before that against Bristol Rovers. What do you think it is that's caused this upturn in form? You know, a few weeks ago we were sat in the relegation zone. Now we're up to 14th. What do you think it is that's turned our form around?
I think it's belief. More than anything, you know, we've always had quality on the pitch, and during that spell there was chances that would come and they wouldn't go in the back of the net. But now, you know, ever since those first goals have gone in, that Wickham game probably being the turning point, you know, City are now feeling like they could shoot a bit more and they're getting the rewards from that and winning games.
I know that you were at the Memorial Stadium for the Bristol Rovers game where, if we're being totally honest, you know, I think we played them off the park. What did you make of that performance? It was a heroic victory for City.
Yeah, the first half especially, it was all City. Should have been, you know, it was one, should have been more than one. Reece Cole off the post, a few other good opportunities. Second half, we kind of sat back and defended the lead a bit, but you know, it was a really good away performance, a very spirited one, and I think City deserved the 3 points that they came away with.
Sonny Cox getting another goal. What a sensation he's been since returning from his loan spell at Yeovil Town. He just looks such a different player, doesn't he?
Yeah, he said in a few interviews, you know, he left a boy, came back a man, and he's just looked really, really sharp, especially that second ball in the penalty area. You know, he's always first on it. He gets all his goals off that. And that's what you need as a club that may not be getting those goals straight from shots. You know, he finishes up the second chances.
Yeah, and another clean sheet for Vil Sinisalo. I believe that's 10 in the league this season, which is absolutely unbelievable, really, considering, you know, where we've been this season. One thing that's remained pretty strong throughout is our defensive resilience. I've got Cheick Diabate coming on in just a little bit. How important has his performance been to this upturn in form?
Yeah, Cheick's been absolutely brilliant. You know, fans have praised him. Gary's praised him. I think everyone's going to praise him. You know, he's been rock solid, really good with the ball at his feet, and above all, really dominant in the air. And he really offers us that, you know, kind of strength that I think you need as a defensive unit.
I mentioned that win against Barnsley on the weekend, a huge victory, which very few would have been brave enough to predict. Maybe we rode our luck a little bit in the latter stages of the game, but those 2 strikes from Jack Aitchison and Reece Cole were certainly worthy of the victory. You must have been immensely pleased with that one too, right?
Yeah, immensely pleased. You know, it was really good to see Jack Aitchison get his goal. He's been working really well the last few games. I think him and Sonny work really well as a pair. So really good to see him get a goal. Reece Cole, you know, one of my players of the season so far, a lovely finish. And then good defensively in the second half as well to see it out, albeit by conceding 1, but saw it out.
And well, since that victory against Barnsley, things have only got better because the long search for a striker is finally over. And well, like London buses to come at once. Mo Isa, an out-and-out centre forward with a proven goal-scoring record in League One, and Melenik Ali, who we know Gary is keen to see play through that central channel. He's certainly mentioned that. And he's also proven his goal-scoring ability in the National League. Let's start with Mo Isa. When I saw him in the red and white stripes yesterday, I couldn't help but get excited. He's a man who certainly knows where the back of the net is.
Yeah, Tom, we talked about it, and I'm really excited to see him play. He scored goals in League One before. He was good at Cheltenham. He was even good last season at MK Dons. Even though they went down, he grabbed 10 last season. And, that was in a team maybe not with the same quality as us. So I'm really excited to see him play. He's fast. He can hold the ball up well. And, I'm really excited to see him through the middle.
Yeah, absolutely. And, well, he's a goal scorer. And I think that is certainly what we need. And he could well partner Sonny Cox up top. There's a lot that Sonny can learn from an experienced striker like Mo Isa. That partnership up top, maybe with Luke Harris and Jack Aitchison in behind, I think that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, really exciting. You've got a really experienced EFL striker who knows these leagues like the back of their hand. And, Sonny Cox just coming into this league, same with Harris. It's the perfect player to learn off.
Yeah, and just on a side note, I did notice that that's now 12 different nationalities represented in the Exeter City first team. Obviously, Mo Isa just signed. He's Sudanese. I think it's quite nice to see so many nationalities represented at our football club.
Yeah, really, really nice. It just shows how diverse the group is, and they all work really well together. So it's amazing to see.
And our second signing of the day was Melenik Ali from Halifax Town, a winger who's found the back of the net 7 times in 21 games this season. He's never played at this level, but do you think he's ready to take that step up?
I think this signing is a really good one for City, and it screams of the future. A 2.5-year deal, a bit like Harper we saw in the summer. Coming up from the National League, looking really exciting. And I think it may seem like a big step up on paper, but if you just ease him into the team, given these chances, he looks a really dynamic player who can play in all those attacking positions, which is really exciting for City. And you'd expect him to come on leaps and bounds at a club like us.
You'd certainly hope so. And players who we've signed from non-league recently, especially this season, they've managed to take that step up pretty well. Vinny Harper looks a natural at this level. Reece Cole, he's been one of our best players this season. Maybe the step up isn't quite as hard as some may seem.
Yeah, I think a lot more credit has been given to the National League in the last few seasons. Away from our club, teams like Wrexham and Notts County, they're smashing League Two out the park at the moment, and they've just come straight up from the National League. So, a lot of credit has to go to that league and the players that are in that league, because there are really quality players, and hopefully Ali is another one of those.
Yeah, one other player that I've seen him compared to is Randell Williams, who we had a few seasons ago. Of course, there's a few similarities, a real flair player, great dribbler, but he also knows how to find the back of the net. And, well, of course, that backflip celebration as well. I suppose we could be looking at a player who maybe is a bit similar to Randell Williams. And if that's the case, it's going to be a great signing.
Yeah, really exciting signing it'd be. Randell was so good, and he's now off at Bolton, starting in a team that's top of League One. So, a really good signing. And if he's anything like Randell, then we're going to have a very exciting prospect on our hands.
Well, yeah, certainly. Ali unfortunately won't be available for selection on Saturday due to a slight knock, but one man who certainly will be is Mo Isa. His signing, of course, strengthens the squad ahead of Matt Taylor's return to St James Park. He is, of course, a manager who this club owes a lot to. You can tell immediately that there's immense respect from Matt towards the club. We gave him some of his best memories playing the game and also helped launch his managerial career. And then he gave us some fantastic memories, of course, including that promotion that night against Barrow. I think everybody's really looking forward to welcoming him back on Saturday.
Yeah, he's an absolute legend at the club, and we all appreciate what he did for us, and I guess he appreciates what we did for him as well. It's a really, really nice relationship, and he gave the fans some respect when we were away there the other week. Came over, clapped us for a little bit, which was nice to see. But I think it's just a really, really mutual appreciation between, the club and Matt Taylor, which is really nice to see.
And I suppose it's quite a good time to reflect on how much the squad has changed since Matt's departure. There's not many who have stuck around, I guess, or not many that we've managed to keep hold of. Harry Kite, Alex Hartridge, Cheick Diabate, Carl Taylor. I think they're the main ones. But there's been so many changes, and whilst I suppose it's always hard to say goodbye to those who have decided to move on, it's interesting to compare the two squads now that Gary has really had a chance to stamp his authority on this team.
Yeah, really, really interesting. You got Piers Sweeney still in there, of course.
Yeah, of course. Sorry.
A City stalwart. But, it is really interesting. Quite a lot of Matt Taylor's players that he signed and were at the club have gone on to bigger things, to be honest. Bigger teams up in League One, likes of Archie Collins. And then you've got a whole host of players playing in the Championship as well. Josh Key, Nombe, of course. But, it's not a bad thing. Managers always get their stamp on squads. And it's nice to see Gary, finally making this squad his own.
Yeah, but there is little room for sentiment during a 90-minute football match. We know how tough it will be to beat Rovers again. We had to work quite hard last Tuesday, but on Saturday it could be a completely different game. We've got to be at our best if we want to get 3 points on Saturday.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a bit tougher than on the Tuesday night. Chris Martin looks like he's back. He scored at the weekend. He's Rovers, best player this season, and he signed a new contract as well. They've got some midfield signings as well in for Grimsby. Looks really impressive. I think it's going to be a different look, Bristol Rovers team, and they've got the players that could hurt us. They just didn't turn up on the Tuesday that we played them. But, City can do it. They've showed how they can play against Rovers, and I think there's more in the tank for the boys.
Yeah, and since then they've only gone and beaten Oxford United 3-1, promotion-chasing Oxford, which is an absolutely fantastic result. They're a good side, and we'll have to be at our best to beat them, but with Mo Ita in attack, perhaps we can do so. Let's finally look forward to Peterborough United, who visit the park on Tuesday night. We all know how good they are. They'll be battling for promotion come the end of the season. It's also a return to SJP for two academy graduates, Archie Collins and Joel Randall. Are you looking forward to seeing some familiar faces back at the park?
Yeah, Archie especially, a promotion hero, and he was so good last year. Joel Randall, an interesting one, he's been injured, didn't play down here last year, and he didn't really play in front of fans for City. He was during that COVID period, so we didn't see much of Joel Randall, who left before the promotion season, which is really, really interesting. But yeah, I guess both of them will be, happy to be back, and there'll be some, joyous reunions between some of the players and Archie and Joel.
Yeah, well, we'll have to wait and see. But once again, I suppose this is quite similar to the Portsmouth game back in December, where we did manage to get a point from. Let's not forget. We'll have to be at our best to beat them. It's going to be a tough game to get anything from. But if we are to do so, we're going to have to be at our very best.
Yeah, look, I think at home against a good team, City can have anyone on their day. We saw it last season. We've seen it this season. We played really well against Pompey. We only just lost to Barnsley in the 90th minute as well, right back in October. So, on a Tuesday night against Peterborough, you'd have to, hope City can get a point, and if not, more.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And, we'll have to wait and see, won't we? Two big games coming up at the park in a matter of a few days. So plenty to look forward to. Sam, thank you so much for joining us on Park Life yet again. And, we'll certainly hear your voice again on Park Life in the next few weeks. Thanks, Sam.
No worries. Thank you, Tom.
Next, I'm joined by City's centre-half Cheick Diabate to talk about returning to the starting 11 and how the team have completely turned things around after that 13-match winless run. Cheick, welcome to Park Life. Thanks for coming on. You've had quite the couple of months. If we look back to November, you weren't really playing as much as you would have liked. You were played out of position as a striker, not really getting those chances to showcase your ability. But fast forward 2 months and you're one of the first names on the team sheet. You won Player of the Month for December and you kept 4 clean sheets. That is quite the achievement.
Yeah, I'm really happy with that achievement, of course. But yeah, like you said, start of the season was so difficult. I wasn't really involved. I was questioning so much. Like, it's really hard for a player to go through like a period like that. And it's the first time in my short career that I've experienced like being in a position like that. So obviously when Matt was here, I broke into the team. I was playing week in, week out. we got promoted. I started the league, up until I got injured. Same thing when I came back from injury, I was straight back in. So for, majority of my short career, I've always been playing, and this season was so tough mentally, from the start of the season all the way up until I'll say like December time. I was questioning whether I was still good enough. I didn't really believe in myself. I was coming into training, not really happy, not really wanting to be there. And yeah, it was a difficult time, but with patience, you can get through times like that.
You showed immense resilience to get back into the team and cement your place in the starting 11. That must have taken some real mental strength to put yourself into that position and keep going.
Yeah, like to be fair, you always hear stories where, a player says, oh yeah, they've been left out. Like you hear this with a lot of ex-players you speak to will tell you that this is just football. Gaffer told me when he was at Celtic, there was always like, 3-4 other centre halves and, it was always competition for places and he never felt safe. And I guess that's how football is. And, in a way, it does make you a better player. And I'm not, obviously you said that I've cemented my spot. I feel like I haven't, do you know what I mean? Because I know that there's other players that are ready to take my spot if I'm not doing the job, if I'm not doing what I need to do. So that kind of keeps me on my toes. And every game, like, I'm thinking like, I need to perform well every single game so that I can keep playing. Because for me, I just always want to be out there on the pitch. I always want to play 90 minutes because that's what I enjoy doing. I love playing games. When it comes to a game day, that's the day of the week I look forward to the most. So I obviously want to be out there.
Your big break came against Stevenage, right? Put back in position at centre-back at the Lamex. I was there and you were unstoppable in that game. What I saw more than anything in that second half particularly was the deep passion you have for Exeter City Football Club. And I think everyone saw that when you were celebrating Yannick's equaliser. How much did that game give yourself a confidence, that boost and give you that self-belief that you can be a top defender at this level?
Well, that day was just, like, it felt so good, like the satisfaction I felt, and I'm pretty sure all the other lads in the squad. Obviously, I used to play for Stevenage, so going back to the Lamex, that's where I got told I wasn't good enough, or they thought I wasn't good enough to make it into their first team, and it's where I kind of got released in one of the offices. So for me, the Lamex isn't just a stadium; it's like where I got told by two people you're not good enough, basically. So when I went there, obviously I knew I was playing in my position again, and I was like, I don't know, I felt like I had something to prove to everyone, to Gary, to the fans, to myself, to everyone really. So that's how I went out, and I feel like this season that's my best performance, 100%. In terms of everything, I was composed on the ball. I defended well, I headed a lot of balls, and I felt very good.
Yeah, since then you've recorded a few clean sheets. That one against Portsmouth was particularly impressive, but the one against Bristol Rovers away, and of course we play them this weekend as well. Two brilliant performances, and of course you can't forget Cambridge at home. Just talk to me about those last two games though. The morale of the squad must be absolutely over the moon at the moment, because we've come through such a difficult period as a club, 13 without a win, to then win 3 and 5. I suppose that the relief amongst the squad must be intangible, really.
Yeah, like at the moment in the training ground and even in the change rooms before the games, you feel like, the squad's, like, you feel like we have a lot of confidence right now. Like you said, we went through a crazy patch of games where we just weren't winning, where things were going against us. And yeah, it was very, very difficult. Everyone was doubting themselves, and yeah, it was a tough time. It was a tough time, but now, the last 5 games, I think we've been outstanding. I think we've been good, we've been solid, and we've shown what we're capable of. And we've got 17 games left of the season, so I think like that's more than enough games to, do something good and end this season on a high. So, I'm looking forward to the next 17 games, and the goal now is to finish as high as possible.
Yeah, not just avoid relegation, finish as high as possible. I know that Demi said that he posted on Twitter, didn't he? That the gaffer challenged you to get 7 points from the last 3 games, and that's exactly what you've done. Did you genuinely believe that you could get those 7 points when you looked at the fixtures that were coming?
So yeah, I genuinely myself, I believe that we could have done it. I'm pretty sure a lot of the lads, I can't speak for the other lads, but I'm pretty sure a lot of them believed it as well, and that showed in our performances. Cambridge, we should have won that game. We had chances. We just couldn't put it away on the day. And then Bristol Rovers was, it's a tough place to go away, but the way we played shows that, we believed in what we was doing. We believed in the manager's tactics, and we went and we executed it. And same, to be fair, when I saw Barnsley, my honest opinion was, all right, they're top 5 in the league, but that doesn't really mean anything. Like, if we go and we do what we have to do, we'll beat them. And the gaffer was saying the same thing. And, that's what we went and did. We went and we, done what he told us to do, and it all worked. So, yeah, he set a goal and we achieved it.
Yeah, outstanding, really. What do you think the turning point was? We're playing just as well as I've seen us play since, many times during that promotion season, sometimes during last season as well, we were excellent. But this is just as good as any of that. And that's credit to the players and the coaching staff. But how did you turn it around?
That's a difficult question, because a lot of people could say, Stevenage was a turning point. A lot of people could say Wickham. I don't really know exactly. I couldn't tell you exactly when the turning point was, but in football, momentum's important and confidence as well. And I'll say from the Cambridge game, even the Portsmouth game, like getting a point at home to the top of the league, I think that gave us a huge boost. And personally, I was thinking that if we can keep a clean sheet against Portsmouth, who are top of the league, and our XG was higher than theirs as well, we can beat anyone in this league. That was my mentality, And I think if I think of all the recent games, I think the Portsmouth game was probably like the turnaround, and where we saw that we're actually capable of, doing good things and beating these so-called big teams. Do you know what I mean? So I'll say that was the game where, it was like a turning point, kind of.
It sounds ridiculous now, but you kind of have to avoid complacency after going on such a good run. Let's look towards the future. Bristol Rovers again on Saturday, a chance for you to do the double over them. What kind of match are you preparing for?
We're preparing, obviously, we played them, I think, a week, 2 weeks ago now. So they're gonna come more prepared. They're gonna know exactly, what we're good at. They're gonna know. So we need to be prepared to, do even more than what we did away from home. Because we know that they know how we play now, and they know what to expect as well from us. So it's gonna be I feel like it'll be a close game. But I do feel like we're a better team than Bristol, and I do feel like we'll get the win. We just need to, do what we need to do and execute our tactics. But like you said about complacency as well, that's one thing you can't do. And I don't think any of the lads in our squad get complacent, because for us, it's when we win a game, we move on to the next. We don't think about it. We just move on, because in football, games come thick and fast, and you can't dwell on whether you've lost or whether you've won. You just can't do that. So obviously the Barnsley game was amazing. Now that's in the past, and we got to move on and look forward.
Yep, absolutely. And we got 2 new players who are going to be a part of that journey going forward. Mo Isa signed yesterday, or at least as when we're recording it, and so did Melenik Ali. Have you had a chance to meet the 2 new players?
Yeah, I met them today. Mo Isa, I played against him last season. He's a good player. And Melenik Ali, obviously I don't know too much about him, but from what I've heard and from what I've seen from clips that I've watched of him, he's a good player as well. So I think both of them will definitely add good quality to us, and I feel like we do need that as well. And personally, I think with these 2 signings and the squad we have already, I think we can finish on a high this season. And 17 games, like I said, it's a lot of opportunities to literally change our season around and see how high we can finish.
How high do you think we can finish?
No comment. No comment. No comment.
Well,
whatever happens will happen. I don't obviously I've got a prediction in my head, but you never know what will happen. Like we've got to keep on winning games. We've got to keep on performing, and I don't think it's good to look at the end goal. You got to go through the process. We take it game by game, and if we take it game by game, by the end of the season we'll see where we end up. But it's hard work. It's not easy. You can say as much as you want. Oh yeah, we'll finish here, we'll finish there. But if you're on the pitch and you're not doing what you've got to do, you're not going to get there. So for me, the most important is thinking about every game as it comes, not the final result.
It's all about the next game then, Bristol Rovers on Saturday, and it looks like the squad are feeling quite confident, but we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, Bristol Rovers a great side, and get onwards from there. At the moment, the turnaround in form seems to be doing us wonders. Cheick, thank you so much for joining us on Park Life this week. Been great to hear your insight.
No worries, thanks Tom, cheers.
Next up, we get the lowdown on Bristol Rovers from the Gascast's Max Alderson. Max, welcome to Park Life. Thanks for coming on. It's not been long since we last played Bristol Rovers, last week in fact, and I'm not sure if many would have predicted the outcome of that one. Rovers weren't in great form, but nor were we. Regardless, City secured the 1-0 victory through Sonny Cox, which has sparked a decent little run of form for the team. Rovers fans, however, must have been left pretty frustrated after an evening of disappointment. How did you feel after that one, Max?
Yeah, probably the angriest I've felt all season, to be honest. I felt that we didn't have much character on our side at all. The conditions were horrendous. I don't know if you went to the game, but the wind and the rain was just the worst I've seen in many a year down the Mem, which made playing football obviously a big challenge. The fact that you guys were obviously struggling a little bit and desperate for the win to obviously push yourselves up the table. So the gauntlet was kind of there to step up to the plate and tackle the game head on, but we just didn't have any kind of character or personality about us to match you guys. And yeah, you deservedly won the game. I probably would have said a draw. I would maybe have been fair, but I think when I'm looking at the character of the two sides and who wanted it more, I think it no doubt was Exeter City. So yeah, no, it was a very frustrating game. I was frustrated just by the fact that none of our squad really looked up for it, which is one of the most disappointing things you can kind of witness as a fan. But we've since bounced back, so I'm a little bit less angry. But yeah, the game itself was frustrating for sure.
Yeah, well, it certainly looked it. Obviously, joyous for us, but very disappointing for your lot. You were missing a couple of decent players, though, a couple of key players. Perhaps some of the poor performance can be blamed on the absence of Chris Martin, top goal scorer this season. Since that game, he's returned from injury and also signed a new contract with the club, meaning he'll be available for selection on Saturday. How much did you miss his quality last Tuesday?
Yeah, I would say, yeah, we did miss it, but I don't think we created a great deal either. Chris is quite he's a finisher, really. He doesn't massively create his own chances. The only chances he does create for himself is by being in a good position and be able to use his wide range of different finishes, and he's got a cracking shot on him from any distance, really. But where he really kind of thrives is in that box, any kind of loose balls he pounces on. So he does kind of need that service, and I just don't think on that Tuesday night we looked like we were creative at all until probably the last 15 minutes of the game where we suddenly woke up. But yeah, we massively missed him. It's been good to have him back. He obviously scored against Oxford on Saturday on his return, signed a new contract, which is great news. And yeah, he's been a really surprising signing because he's not exactly a young man anymore, in the twilight of his career. Recently played for our red neighbours across the river in South Bristol. And yeah, pretty much all of my friends who are Bristol City fans have said as soon as he signed that you'll just love him. And I was like, yeah, I don't know, man. He's a journeyman striker. He's 35. He's not exactly, young blood energy that we need, but he's been fantastic. He's in double digits for goals. I think only got them going in September with not much of a preseason. And yeah, there's tricks in the old dog yet. So yeah, he's been pretty integral to the way we set up. and we've kind of built our attack around feeding him, and it's worked really well. So I can't really have too many complaints.
Well, Chris Martin signed a new contract, and you've also strengthened elsewhere on the pitch as well. The signing of Camille Conte, it even got Fabrizio Romano talking. He looks a great acquisition.
Yeah, no, a really exciting signing, and really smart to kind of jump on a player. You don't often see players leave within 6 months of joining a club, because he signed for Grimsby Town on a 3-year deal, and he's only 6 months into that. Not even that. I mean, he signed in the summer, and it was January, so yeah, not long at all, and he's already on the move again to us. So it's quite smart business for us to kind of see that he's got a release clause, see that he's a hot prospect, and jump in before maybe the summer, where he'll probably have a lot more interest, probably from top end League One Championship clubs. So yeah, I really like him. He's exactly what we needed, to be honest. We've got a few injuries, particularly in the midfield, in defensive midfield. So Grant Ward, who's kind of our sitting jack of all trades centre mid, is unfortunately out for the next month or two. So he was a big player we missed to get against yourselves on Tuesday, and I really felt that we lacked that kind of cover for the defence. Obviously, you scored on a breakaway, and we were just backing off, and then it was just a bit of a defensive calamity. So we kind of need that guardian in front of that back line, and Camille Conte looks exactly like he can do that against Oxford City on Oxford United on Saturday. He looked brilliant in that role. He didn't look like he had masses of energy. He wasn't busting a gut, flying into tackles. He's not that kind of defensive midfielder. He just kind of marks a man out of a game perfectly, and then he'll just slip out from the shadows and just win the ball when you don't expect him to. He's kind of quite a patient defensive mid. I mean, I'm only basing it on the one game I've seen, but he looked very calm, very assured, and yeah, we looked really solid with him in that midfield. So I'm very pleased with the signing. 21 years old. It's just kind of ticks all the boxes, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And one change you made from the game against us to the Oxford game was your goalkeeper, of course. I think goalkeeper errors kind of come just every year when we play you at the Mem. I think it was James Belshaw the year prior, and then Matthew Cox, who spilled his effort into Sonny Cox's path, which gave us the goal on Tuesday. You replaced him with Jed Ward, who was your number 2 for much of the first half of the season. Does he look a little bit more competent?
I mean, I hate to really play down a player like Cox, who's obviously a young professional England under-20 goalkeeper, trying to make his way, but he's been a massive point of debate for the whole season, particularly being the one who's kind of replaced James Belshaw, our promotion-winning player of the season from League Two when we came up with yourselves. Belshaw obviously struggled in League One, as you saw firsthand, both not just at the Memorial Stadium, but at St James's Park as well. With he got chipped, I think, there as well late on, which was frustrating. So yeah, Belshaw was obviously replaced. This keeper Cox on loan from Brentford kind of boasted a more possession-based keeper style, sweeper keeper, play it out from the back, good long-range passing. And it kind of started out that way. He looked pretty decent early on, but I think when kind of the fixtures started to pile up and the pressure started to mount, the manager changed, this, that, the other, and we didn't quite have as good a season as we thought. I think kind of his errors have been highlighted, and he's not looked the keeper that we need. And I think, yeah, it's been frustrating that we can't have a keeper who wins you points. We have a keeper that's unfortunately lost us some points. And I think the game against yourselves on Tuesday was the straw that broke the camel's back, really, that made Matt Taylor say, you know what, we've got a really good young goalkeeper in Jed Ward, 20 years old, who's one of our own. I think it's got to the point now where we're probably safe, you would think, with not much of the season left to play. There's enough breathing space there below us, and unfortunately too much distance to kind of catch up in front of us, that we're kind of looking towards next season already. So it'd be great if Jed can get 15, 20 games between now and the end of the season to just kind of get that experience, and kind of potentially be number one for next year. Because ultimately, what as good as it is to have a young professional like Cox, he's not been good enough. And it's now at the point where we're just developing someone else's player. So that's kind of why Jed came in, and he looked brilliant. He made some fantastic saves. Unfortunate not to keep the clean sheet. It was a handball goal by Oxford, deflected effort. But yeah, he looked really, really assured. And yeah, I'm excited to see more of him. He's a local lad, and yeah, you could see what it meant to him to get man of the match as well.
Yeah, he certainly looks a good young talent. You've mentioned Matt Taylor a couple of times, and of course, naturally, every Exeter City fan will be looking straight towards the dugout on Saturday because it's Matty's first game back at St James Park since his last managing Exeter, which, as you'll know, was funnily enough against Bristol Rovers. Talk to me about your opinion on Matt, what he's done for the club since he joined in December, and everything else that comes with Matt Taylor, because he's a great man, we all know that, and he's also a decent tactician as well.
Yeah, he's what kind of struck me early on is the fixture list he kind of inherited. I think we had Portsmouth at home, Bolton away, and Charlton at home, and we won all three. Good wins, and I think what kind of stuck out was the way we nullified the opposition, and we just looked like we were doing the basics a lot more. Taylor's massively simplified things down. He's gone back to basics. He talks about basics all the time, as you probably know, but his post-match interviews are refreshingly honest, and you can just see what he's trying to do. He's just trying to keep it quick, keep it efficient in tight areas. And what I've noticed most of it was kind of the overloads all over the pitch. We're playing a 5 at the back, a 3 at the back, a 3-4-3. And there just seems to be options everywhere. Every time a player has it, there's at least 3 open options. And it's just so great to watch. And it's been not without its difficult periods. As you can see, we're not in a great bit of form at the minute, but I think a lot of that is down to injury, needing fresh faces in, needing some new signings, and unfortunately needing some extra staff as well, because he's not been massively well supported since he's coming in. He's brought in Jamie McAllister on the coaching staff, but not much else. And coming into the January window, we don't have a recruitment department or anything like that. So he's literally doing it all off his own back. So it's been a bit of a struggle for him. Unfortunately, that's just how it's gone, with Barton pretty much having his entire setup being his kind of guys, from the recruitment team to the physios to the coaches. So when he left, all of that left, unfortunately. So Taylor is really working with the bare bones here. And I think overall he's doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, it certainly sounds like it. And of course, Jamie McAllister, somebody who we know quite well from Exeter City as well. So a couple of them linking up. Another former Exeter City defender, at least, and obviously Matt and Jamie both being defenders too. Another who will be returning to St James Park, I believe for the first time in his career, is City Academy graduate George Friend, who lines up against his boyhood club for the first time since he left the club in 2008. He had a loan spell a couple of years later, but he's never played against Exeter City, which I find astonishing, really. What's he been like for Rovers since joining in the summer? Because I know Gary admitted that we had spoken to him about potentially returning to City, but he opted for Rovers in the end.
Yeah, I think he's got a lot of roots in Bristol as well. He played for the Rovers Academy as a young lad as well. Played for Bristol City as well, I believe. So I think he has got ties in Bristol, which may have played a part in the move. But yeah, unfortunately, he's suffered from a lot of injuries. Not really had a consistent run in the side, but when he's kind of been called upon, he's been pretty solid. He played in a back 3 against Oxford, which I don't think he's done this season. Maybe only once or twice. Usually under Barton, he was at left back. But yeah, he kind of played left centre back and looked really, really good. Vocal, good leader, solid. I just wish he could kind of keep a bit fitter in terms of his injury record, but that's going to happen at his age, as it's happened with James Wilson as well. We've just been really unlucky this season with injuries, and it's kind of hampered us. But I really like George Friend. I'm interested to see what Taylor will do with him in the summer, because I believe he's out of contract. So I'd be interested to see if he extends for another year, or if he kind of drops and leaves for another club.
Let's move on to Saturday then. And St James Park hasn't been the happiest of hunting grounds for Bristol Rovers in recent years. In fact, since the turn of the century, Rovers have won just 1 in 10 games at the park, and that was all the way back in 2012. So I make that
Elliot
12.
Richards scored in that game, I believe.
You may be right. I don't have that off the top of my head. This did take a little bit of research. But that was all the way back in 2012. So 12 years since your last win at St James Park.
I feel old now.
Well, yeah. Do you think this is the year that you can finally end that winless streak?
I hope so. I mean, I've looked back and there's been some great games down there. I can remember some that we've been really unlucky in, and some that we've been really lucky in. So I'm thinking back to I remember, I believe it was when we got promoted from League Two last time, and Stuart Sinclair scored an absolute screamer, ran the length of the pitch in the rain, and knee slid in front of the Rovers fans. And then I can't remember who it was. You had a young lad who'd come back from loan, and he scored a deflected effort in injury time to earn yourselves a draw. I'm sure some of your listeners will be able to recall, but I can't remember his name off the top of my head. So I remember that one being really gutting. And then on the flip side, I remember last season Ryan Loft in injury time scoring to earn us a 2-2 draw. So yeah, it's always a good game. It's always a really exciting one. The only one that kind of raises alarm bells was the 4-1, 4-0 down in 20 minutes, I think it was, in League Two under Barton. But yeah, I'm optimistic this time that we'll give you, hopefully a really good game and bring home the 3 points. I think particularly because we played you in the last week, I hope the players and the management team are as angry at that result as us fans were. We'll be wanting a response. We've got some bodies back in Martin and Conte now in the middle, solidifying that. And hopefully we can, under better weather conditions, give you a better showing of what we're about, because unfortunately we really did not show you anything close to our best. So I'm optimistic that we can kind of show up and at least, give a good account of ourselves.
Always expect wonderful weather down in Devon. But of course, City are in good form. It's going to take a lot to beat our side, humbly I say. But we have been in decent form. The win against Barnsley on the weekend, I'm sure, raised a lot of eyebrows in League One. That must be on your mind.
Of course, yeah. No, you can't underestimate anyone. Rovers, for the last, I don't know how many years in League One, obviously we had a quick stint in League Two, but we've always shown up against the top 6, top 10, top half teams, and we've kind of played better against teams who are higher up in the table. Maybe because there's more space to exploit, maybe because teams are coming at you more and you can counter more. But our Achilles heel for the last decade or so has just been we're terrible against bottom half teams. No disrespect meant there, but everyone is, Rovers are on the verge of being a bottom half team themselves, but that is where we fail to step up to the mark, is when we play teams who are fighting for their lives, really, and fighting to stay in the division. It seems that we kind of struggle in that mid-table obscurity to kind of have that same motivation as teams down there. And unfortunately, we haven't really shown up and beaten teams that you would hope on paper that we would. But yeah, I'm definitely not saying that this is one on paper that I would expect us to win. It's a tough game. And if you ask me now, I'd be happy with a point. So I'm definitely expecting a tough one.
Well, Max, thank you so much for joining us on Park Life this week. It's going to be a good game, I'm sure. And, best of luck for the rest of the season. Obviously not on Saturday, but that doesn't need to be said. It's going to be a good game. And, there's always a little added sort of twinge to this one because it is a semi-local rivalry, I guess. So lots to play for.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me on.
Finally, I'm joined by City's Sustainability Officer, Travis Bramley, to talk about what you can do ahead of City's Green Football Weekend. This week, Exeter City celebrate Green Football Weekend, and whilst that name probably needs a bit of a rethink for us lot in the red half of Devon, it's incredibly important to consider how us football fans are impacting the environment. To explore this topic further, I'm joined by the club's Sustainability Officer, Travis Bramley. Now, Travis, firstly, just tell our listeners about what the Green Football Weekend is all about.
Sure, yeah. Well, first of all, thanks very much for having me on, Tom. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. Really excited to kind of share more about the Green Football Weekend and also more about what I guess the club is doing in the area of sustainability. So, yeah, to answer your question, Green Football Weekend is essentially a nationwide campaign. There's about 80 clubs who take part each year. Looks like it's going to be a similar amount this year. So it's a big thing, and basically it's all about trying to get as many fans and stakeholders from across kind of the club's operations to engage in more sustainable behavior and trying to kind of change the mindset when it comes to what is sustainability and kind of trying to drip feed it into everyone's lives and not make it a real chore to do, and try and make it a little bit more fun and accessible as well, in terms of you can score goals or make pledges for your team, and that's kind of the whole premise behind it, is you make your team go up the leaderboard or down the leaderboard, and depending on how many fans pledge, and that's kind of what it's all orientated around, is trying to get your team to win the Green Football Weekend trophy or cup at the end of it. And I think we're currently sitting in ninth position as as of recording for this weekend. So yeah, it's going well so far for us at Exeter.
And whilst, you know, a lot of people, when they hear about climate change and the problems facing our environment at the moment, you see images and videos of forest fires and everything else that's on the news. It's all quite a lot, isn't it? But in actuality, the solutions to a lot of these problems can just be done from home. You know, turning off a light bulb, turning off the tap when you're brushing your teeth, whatever it might be. These are big things or little things that can help solve a big problem.
Yeah, for sure. I think when you alluded to the really big kind of scary problems like wildfires, flooding, that kind of thing, it can sometimes feel quite abstract. So it's not something that we immediately think of in our daily lives, and it means it's quite difficult for us to think, how can we actually have an impact? But also you kind of feel quite powerless with it as well. Like, you can't do anything immediately to change it. But I think what Pledge Ball and Planet League and the Green Football Weekend is trying to do is put the kind of the ball in our court and actually make us feel empowered and realize that small actions can actually add up to substantial totals.
And we know our fans are competitive, right? We know that for sure. So there's always got to be an incentive to get our fans to get involved in this scheme. And I suppose that's exactly what the leaderboard is for. City currently sit 9th in the Green Football Weekend league table, ahead of some big clubs like Arsenal, Liverpool, Manchester City. They're going to have to work hard to stay ahead of those teams.
Yeah, we are. I think so. A few days ago, we were actually ahead of Chelsea as well. So, but Chelsea seem to have had a bit of a late run of form, and they're a few positions ahead of us at the moment. But I reckon we can get them back by the weekend if we put in a good shift and get as many people onto the Green Football Weekend website and making those pledges and kind of scoring those eco goals for us.
Yeah, and what is it that the City fans can pledge to get those points on the leaderboard?
Sure, yes. I mean, so the way it works is there's two websites. You've got Pledgeable and you've got Planet League. So you go onto the Pledgeable site first and foremost, all through the Green Football Weekend kind of portal. And Pledgeable is just a one-off. So you make pledges kind of for the year. So you say that you're going to walk or cycle to games, or you're going to eat vegetarian once or twice a week, things like that. Basically, take public transport to a game or something similar along those lines. And it's like a reverse carbon calculator. So it then tells you how many kilograms of carbon dioxide that you will save by doing those actions. And then that translates into the green goals that we have that push us up and down the leaderboard. And that will literally take you 5 minutes tops. You fill in your details, you tick the boxes, you're done. And that's your kind of contribution to helping Exeter to hopefully climb that league table. But if you want to get more involved and you want to kind of get your family and friends involved and have a bit of maybe a friendly rivalry with a mate or something like that, you go back onto the Green Football Weekend website and then head across to Planet League. And basically that allows you to basically do daily actions. So there are things on there like using alternative milks, so switching out cow's milk, for example, to something like oat milk or rice milk or something, whatever. Or perhaps riding a bike to work, or using a reusable water bottle. Even downloading the Green Football Weekend cookbook actually earns you a green goal. Like, it's really that simple. So it really, really varies, like, in terms of what you can do. And also for Planet League, you have to take a photo of what you've done. So you kind of have to prove a little bit of evidence as well to prove that you've actually done it. And that can be quite good fun to get especially the younger members of your family involved as well, and getting them thinking about their everyday behaviors. And like I said, you can do that pretty much daily and score more and more points, and you sort of see yourself moving up the leaderboard as well as the club. So yeah, it can be quite addictive, I think.
Yeah, well, for sure. And City aren't just asking the fans to do its work. We're also doing a lot of things ourselves. We're giving, for example, a free tea or coffee to every supporter who shows a public transport ticket that has been used on the day to get to the ground. We're giving them a free tea or coffee. And we're even swapping out the default hospitality menu option to vegetarian to give supporters the option of a bit more of a sustainable lunch. Those little changes, like we just said, which can make a huge difference. Yeah,
I think it's, like I said earlier on, it's all about making small changes that feel really manageable and aren't a huge kind of inconvenience, because they do add up. And I think it's all about getting people on board with sustainability instead of I don't want to necessarily use the word, but alienating them against it, because I get that it can feel like you almost have to be in one camp or the other, but you really don't. Like, you don't have to be an environmental activist to be interested and passionate about sustainability and caring about where we live and the wider world in general. And I think, yeah, I think from a club perspective, offering small tokens like that is great to raise awareness for the Green Football Weekend as a whole. But obviously, we hope that there's going to be a bit of a legacy after the Green Football Weekend as well from certain sort of stadium activations. Like, for example, we're going to have some charity bins for secondhand children's sports clothing that are going to go down to Jelly in Exeter. So that's sort of repurposing old sporting goods, which is great. We're announcing our partnership with Train Split, which is a train splitting website company. And they basically, for those of you not familiar with train splitting, essentially you stay on the same train, but the ticket is just literally split into 2 or more tickets, and that enables you to save money on the regular fare. So this website does that all for you. So we've partnered up with them to enable Exeter City fans, regardless of where you're going. It could be on your daily commute, it could be going to a City game. But yeah, you can save money through that portal. So we're trying to use Green Football Weekend as a bit of a catalyst for change and for good off the back of it. And there's lots of work going on behind the scenes as well, and that's largely what my role is all about.
Well, yeah, I was going to say this is probably quite a good time to bring up some of the work that the club have already done, because we're a club that pride ourselves on our green credentials, and I think fairly so. You know, the Cans for City scheme has been running for many, many years and has saved thousands of cans from landfill. The club also recently announced a new cup recycling scheme at the bars around St James Park, where fans can donate their cups back to the club for reuse, and then by doing so help save the planet and also raise a bit of money for charity. These are the things that the club have tried really hard to do to help the environmental cause that the club supports.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you touched upon it there. I think that the fact that we're trust owned and we are a really integral part of our community, and the community is a massive part of the club as well. And I think that aligns really nicely with the values of sustainability and looking after not just the wider Exeter area, but further outside of that as well. And sort of our responsibility in that sense is quite a potentially quite a big polluter if we weren't doing things right. But I think, yeah, there's lots of things that we're looking into, from reducing energy usage to water usage and all that kind of stuff. Looking at how we can improve the biodiversity of both our training ground, but also St James Park as well. Obviously, there's a limited amount of space there where we can't exactly plant a forest there, for example, but there are little things that we're looking into and applying for grants and bits and pieces there. There's so much that's already going on. Obviously, you mentioned the Cancer City that's been going on for years. That massively predates me, and it's fantastic to see the work that volunteers are doing at the club. And I think it speaks volumes that, I mean, like Japan, for example, like they got worldwide coverage for cleaning up the stands after their games at the World Cup. Yeah, our fans do it every single game, win, lose or draw. Like it's amazing, and a credit to them. But yeah, I think that a lot of it is putting in systems in place that mean that we're taking responsibility sort of for our actions going forwards. Yeah, I think we're doing a lot of things right. There are a lot of things we can be doing certainly a lot better. And that's reflected in our kind of score for what's called the EFL Green Clubs Framework. I'm not sure many fans will have heard of it, but basically it's something that the EFL have brought in for every club in the EFL. It's essentially a framework that you can score yourself against. And if you achieve above a certain score, you become EFL Green Club accredited, basically. And there are only 2 clubs in the whole country that have been accredited so far, and you could probably guess one of them, which is Forest Green, and the other one is Bristol City. And our ambition is to join those 2 clubs as soon as we can, basically. So that's kind of my role, is to figure out what it is that we can do and get the best bang for our buck as well, because not everything in sustainability measures can cost money, and they can cost a lot of money. So it's being smart about the resources that we have available to us, and a lot of things we can do with pretty minimal capital expenditure as well. And I think one of the biggest things for me, so I started in November, and bearing in mind it's almost February, so yeah, I've been here 2 and a little bit months, but the backing from the club and kind of the support that you get when you ask a question, even if it's a really silly one in my case quite often, but people are very, very quick to point you in the right direction. And I think the support that kind of sustainability, I think, has at the top level of the club as well. So we've recently had a director of sustainability appointed, which again is something that the Green Clubs framework recommends. Puts us in a really good stead because it means that there's somebody at the highest level of the club sort of not fighting for sustainability, but gives it a voice, and makes us consider that element when important decisions are being made. So I think that in itself shows the intention of the club going forward.
Yeah, well, absolutely. There's so much that the club is doing really well. It's got to be said. But one thing that we can certainly agree on is that loads of fans need to get onto the Pledgeable site and pledge some time and some things that they're going to do to help City climb that leaderboard and maybe overtake Chelsea, which we're going to hope to do, I'm sure, in the next few days ahead of our Green Football Weekend match against Bristol Rovers. Travis, thank you so much for coming on Park Life this week. I think a lot of fans would have found that conversation really informative and maybe will have inspired them to act a little bit more sustainably in their everyday lives. So Travis, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks very much, Tom. Looking forward to seeing all those pledges and green goals come flooding in after this.
Thank you, Travis. Cheers. That's all for this episode of Park Life, the official Exeter City podcast. Let us know what you want to hear more of via our social media channels, and don't forget to hit the follow button so you never miss an episode. Thanks for listening. Up the City.
He's been picked out. Socks down to his ankle. Picks out Stansfield. That's the hat-trick.